recently, a lot of my boarders and riding students have been asking me about the buying process for purchasing a horse. And it's kind of, a lot of the people we have here are new students that they've been taking riding lessons for a while, and they start to believe it's time to buy a horse for themselves. Well, just this last week we bought this horse here. His name is Blue. He is a grade quarter horse, and what grade means is that he's not registered, so he doesn't have any papers. He wasn't registered with the American Quarter Horse Association, but looking at him, the way he carries his body, the way his body's built, it's easy to believe he's probably a quarter horse, a stock horse of some sort. Blue was advertised for sale. I found him on Facebook. The thing about Facebook is one of the rules is you can't sell live animals on Facebook. So people, in order to get around that rule, are pretty creative. They don't ever post the price of the animal on Facebook, or they'll say that they have a horse up for discussion. They'll kind of give their location. They'll give you a few details about the horse itself, and they'll go from there, and then you send them a message, and all the communication about the horse is either done through Facebook Messenger, or you may get a phone number from them and you can send text messages or maybe even make a phone call. Initially, when I contacted the owner, Blue, they were asking $17.50. He was local. He was about a 45-minute drive from here, from our ranch over to his place there, just on the other side of the Missouri line. The details he gave me about Blue was that he was an 82-year-old gentleman. He rode the horse. He'd owned it for about 2 years, and that he used Blue to go and check cows. That was his main function. He'd come back and he'd ride the horse back and forth. He'd ride it out by itself. That kind of fit in with what I was particularly looking for in my list of things I wanted for Blue, because he's going to be a lesson horse for us here at the ranch. I wanted a horse that could work cattle. I wanted a horse that was relatively calm to be a lesson horse, and I wanted something that wasn't extremely young. I wanted something that had a few years. 9 years old is a good age for a horse. I find that when they are in that 9 to 10-year-old range, they're generally very middle-aged. They tend to have a lot more experience under their belt. They tend to behave and relax and calm a little better and easier for us to use right away. If we had bought a younger horse, it probably would not have made it into the lesson program until it was closer to 10 years old. So it was just a better fit for us to find one that was at least 10. Blue's coloring is a roan color. He is a bay with a roaning hair for himself. They call it blue. That's kind of an old school term for that color. So we set up initially a time to come see Blue. It was right after work. One of my things is, if I'm looking at a horse that's local, I don't take my horse trailer with me when I go see it for the first time. I already have it in my mind that if I like the horse, then I'm going to come back and get him on another day. That way the horse has to at least be worth making a second trip for it. If I take a trailer with me, I may be on the fence about buying the horse, and it's a lot harder to walk away if I've got the trailer there and the money with me to buy him, and I wasn't quite sure that that's really what I wanted. First thing I did when I got there is I walked around the horse, and I had the owner ride him for me. He was already riding him. He showed me that he could walk, trot, and canter. And I'd have them do it, because I don't want to just step on somebody else's strange horse, not knowing what's going to happen. So if I can at least see them ride it, then I kind of have an idea or a baseline as to what I'm working with. I climbed on, rode Blue down the road by myself. The place that we were buying him from did not have an arena or anything that I could try him out in, but it was just a gentleman's house. So I just took him down the road. I walked him, I tried him, I cantered him. The next thing I did is I asked him for something I didn't think he was going to know, because I wanted to see what would happen if he was confused. I asked him for a half pass. As it turned out, Blue knew what the half pass was, and he just kind of half passed right on across the road. So it worked out for his benefit. A lot of times when I'm looking at a new horse and I give them a signal that they don't know or understand, what I want to know is, are they going to start bucking? Are they going to start kicking because they're frustrated because they don't understand? If they don't and they're willing to give me a couple answers, then I'm happy. I can teach them to half pass later. I can teach them to side pass later. Any of those little things like that I can teach later. They don't have to know it in order for me to buy it. The other thing I looked at was knowing that he was 9 years old. I took a look inside of his mouth and kind of aged him by his teeth, and I'll kind of show you on a different video later on how to do that. But the reason I did that is because he is a great horse, and I'm checking the honesty of the owner. I want to know if I look in this horse's mouth and he's told me he's 9 years old, his teeth should look like a 9-year-old horse's teeth. If they look like a 20-year-old horse's teeth and the owner's telling me he's 9, then there's some honesty issues there, and I'm probably going to pass. Next thing I did is I went around the horse and I looked at his legs. I want to see that his legs are relatively straight. They don't have to be perfect, but I want to make sure that he's going to be in good shape and somebody we can use for a long time without having a whole lot of medical issues or issues with arthritis and breaking down. So I kind of looked at his feet, made sure the hoofs were in relatively good shape. In this particular case, Blue has shoes all the way around, which is a good sign that he's been being taken care of. His feet were not freshly trimmed, but they weren't extremely long and out of balance either, so that was a good sign that he had been taken care of by the other gentleman. And the other thing I wanted to look at was his shape and his overall body condition. He's a little on the thin side, but that's something I can fix relatively easy with giving him some warmer and then and just feeding him some extra grain over the winter, and we'll get him caught up until the green pasture comes back and the pasture does it on its own. So if you guys have any questions about buying a horse, I encourage you to go ahead and put them on our comments and we can answer them as best as we can. Thank you very much.